So this entire summer, I have been a community engagement intern with CanWin, which is a domestic violence services agency based in Chicago for Asian American women and children. So I just want to share CanWin's mission statement real quick. I wrote it on my phone here. It is, CanWin's mission is to eradicate gender-based violence, including domestic violence and sexual assault, especially for women and children across Asian American communities and beyond, through culturally competent services, community engagement, and advocacy. Why is CanWin important? Why are they serving Asian American communities? Well, definitely it's to provide direct services with translations. And what do we mean by culturally competent? What that means is, okay, gotta think, how do I explain this? I guess an example of culturally competent is how I went to high school in Glenview, super white community. Whenever I went to talk to my social worker or my counselor, I would talk about my experience with depression and being an Asian American, Muslim American student. And, you know, they didn't really understand what that was like. And whenever they had to speak to my parents about things that I needed, they were not necessarily being sensitive to my parents' culture and their background and where they came from. So that is an example of what isn't culturally competent. All right, so let me explain what I did this summer. What I did in a nutshell is help prepare CanWin for Global Action Day 2020. Global Action Day happens every year, and every year on Global Action Day, CanWin hosts a rally in Chicago by the Consulate General of Japan by Water Tower Place to advocate for the justice for comfort women survivors. So you might be wondering who the comfort women survivors are. So the comfort women, it's a euphemism for the sex slaves that were forced into Japanese military sex slavery during World War II and in the years leading up to World War II. And you might be wondering why you didn't learn about this in class or anything. Well, that's because Japan doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that they were responsible for it. Okay, so I first learned about the comfort women issue a couple years ago. I went to a Banyan, which is our Asian American Writers Collective based in Oak Park. We had an event, and in this event, M. Evelina Galang, who is a Filipina author, was doing a reading of her book called Lola's House, which is about the comfort women survivors of the Philippines. So what I did to help CanWin get ready for Global Action Day is, one, probably like the most important thing, is that I designed the Comfort Women Advocacy website for CanWin, and if you want to check it out, it's at comfortwomen-justice.com. I'll link it below. So right now I'm just scrolling through the Comfort Women Justice website just to show you how it looks. I would like for you guys to check it out and learn a bit more about this issue. I also designed a Global Action Day action guide. I generated content for a social media toolkit for Global Action Day. I participated in the Global Action Day rally pre-recorded performance because of COVID-19 this summer. The rally had to be pre-recorded and shown on a Zoom webinar. Some skills that I picked up were coordinating with an entire team to collect information and content for the Comfort Women website and some graphics. And like another skill that I picked up at CanWin was just sort of taking initiative to create graphics that I thought were appropriate and were needed by the agency after sitting in on discussions and listening to things, learning more information about CanWin and their services. I had to do a lot of reflecting on what I knew as a person who used to be outside of CanWin. I thought a lot about like what I knew about the comfort women issue and what peers like me would know and what they might like to learn. I also thought a bit about like, you know, making graphics to explain like why CanWin exists. For me as an Asian American woman, it totally like made sense to me like why CanWin should exist, but for some other people like they might not completely understand that. And so I really want to educate people about CanWin and its services and why it's so important to someone like me. So through this internship, I learned quite a bit about why CanWin's important to me. It definitely hit home because my parents are immigrants and so are a lot of my friends' parents. And like it made me realize that there is this issue of immigrant parents not fully understanding legal systems in America due to either language barriers and just general accessibility or inaccessibility to knowledge, especially for immigrants. And it also made me reflect on the stigma towards sexual assault and domestic violence victims in the Asian and immigrant community, and how it should be necessary that there be culturally competent services for those victims and survivors. Because sometimes, in a community where you have this giant stigma, it's really difficult to get help and support that you need in that community. And also, if you're in a community where everyone is not exactly up to speed on the legal system and how you can get out of these situations, how you can get justice for yourself, it's just nice to have this organization that will break it down step by step for you. Because I know that a lot of you guys, of course, support sexual assault survivors and domestic violence victims in this time, especially with the Me Too movement. It's also important to address sexual assaults and war crimes and military rape that happened in the past. We shouldn't just limit our knowledge about sexual assault to current day events, but we should also learn about the history, get justice for these women. These comfort women survivors, some of them are still alive. They're in their 90s, they're getting old. One day they're going to pass away without justice for them. And even when they pass away, we still need to continue the fight for them. Don't let these victims' stories fade away. So thanks for watching my blog, and I'll see you soon. Bye.